Hey, Mike Panaki here with Network Protocol Specialists. And in our live stream today, we're going to be talking about creating cable IDs on the Versiv analyzer from Fluke Networks. So one of the things when I'm doing our CCTT training classes, which is our Certified Cable Test Technician training classes, that teach you how to use both the DSX cable analyzer, the CertiFiber Pro, and the OptiFiber Pro to certify copper and fiber networks. One of the questions that comes up is, I am so tired of typing in cable IDs. So what I want you to get out of this stream that we're doing today is that you do not need to type in cable IDs as you're doing testing. If you do, it's going to slow down your testing, and it's an opportunity to make a mistake. So we're going to go through 3 different methods today that allow you to go in and quickly create cable IDs on the tester when you're going in and doing testing. So over here, we have our Versiv 2. I've got a DSX 8000 module in there right now. It really doesn't matter which module you have in there. A couple of things you notice that I've got this plugged into an Ethernet connection. Now, the Versiv 2 has built-in Wi-Fi, so I could connect that to a Wi-Fi network. I just get in the habit when I'm doing training of plugging it in. Not only are we going to be able to use this to download our project information from LinkWare Live, but I'm going to show you how we can connect LinkWare PC to the Versiv through the network. This is a really cool feature, especially if you've forgotten your USB cable. So let's go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to go ahead and add in my Versiv right here. So we've got our DSX 8000. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. We're going to go out and do some testing. And I want to put some cable IDs in here to test. So as always, I go in and I like to create a new project. Now, one thing I will say before I go much further is that I do have a comment section in here. If you have any comments, questions, let me find the cursor here. I'll turn on comments. Be sure to put those in. This is a live stream. I want to make sure that we get those answered as we're going along. So I'm going to tap on project here on the analyzer. I'm going to say change project, and we are going to create a new project. So we'll call this webcast. How about that? I'll hit done. So now I've got this brand new project called webcast, and I can put in an operator name. This is always a great way to track who's doing the testing. We could set up our test. We'll leave it at Cat 6A for right now. Now, if we come down right here and we see our cable ID sets, the default cable ID set is just next ID is 001. So when we run the test, it would save 001, then it would save 002, and would just increment this pretty much forever. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that default cable ID list. We're going to create a new cable ID list. So when I come in to create a new cable ID list, this allows me to create a sequential cable ID list. So what I do is I put in my first cable ID. So let's say that I was following a naming standard here where I had a building number followed by a floor, followed by an IDF, followed by a rack, followed by a patch panel in that rack. So we'll put in something like this. Now, the neat thing with our cable IDs is these cable IDs can be up to 60 characters in length. Now, I can put in any combination of characters in this field. Now, what we find is that when I click in last ID, it copies the first ID down to the last ID. Now, we can set the last ID to the last ID we would want. So as an example, if in each rack I had 5 patch panels, I could come back and put in 5. So this would go 1 through 5. If in each IDF I had 3 racks, I could put in a 3. So this is going to go 01.01. Oh, and then I need to add in my port number. So let me add that in. I'm going to say, let's say 01 through 24. All right. Now, you could structure these however your naming standards are. But now for each one of my patch panels, I'm going to have ports 1 through 24. And I will have 5 patch panels. For each one of my IDFs, I will have 3 racks, each with 5 patch panels, each with 24 ports. I will now, let's say I have 8 IDFs that I'm testing on 4 different floors. So now what I've done is I've created a set of cable IDs, and we'll go ahead and say done. Actually, we've created too many cable IDs. One of the limits that we see with cable IDs is we can have a total of 5,000 cable IDs. I went a little crazy with this. Let's knock this down to just a couple of racks. There we go, 4,608 cables. But what we're doing in this case is we're creating a cable ID sequence that starts at this number and then increments each one of these fields based on the beginning and ending values. So if we went in and hit review, what we would see is that we go through port 24 and we start the next group. So this gives us a way to create thousands of cable IDs by just entering a few numbers. Now, some important things. They have to be exactly the same length. So in this case, if I have 2 digits at the end, I need to have a leading 0. If I have 3 digits at the end, I need to have 2 leading zeros. But by simply entering this one set of IDs here, we could go in and we created 4,008 cable IDs that you don't have to type in. Now, we can delete these. On a simpler note, I could come in here and just put in 001A through 96B if I'm doing fiber. And it's going to create all those cable IDs in there. It's going to do 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. But what this does is this just gives me a very easy way on the tester to create sequential cable IDs. Now, one of the challenges that you might run into is that not all cable IDs are sequential. We may have an environment where we have a set of cable IDs that are non-sequential. Now, I'm going to back up for just a second. What are the advantages of creating cable IDs in advance? Well, the first thing of creating cable IDs in advance, and let's go ahead and save that. We're going to go back out to our home screen, is right here on my home screen, it says that we are 0% tested. So now that I've created my cable IDs, every time I run a test, that test gets added to my percent tested. The analyzer knows how many cables we need to test, so it can show me my percentage. So if I'm a project manager and I go in and set this test up ahead of time, and I hand this off to a technician to go out and do the testing, I can say, do not come back until you are 100% tested. This ensures that they have tested every cable I want them to test. Now, if I am doing sequential cable IDs, one of the fastest ways to reduce your testing time, one of the easiest ways, is to come in here and turn on autosave if you're testing in order. Now, if I turn on autosave, what's going to happen is every time I run a test, it will automatically save it to the next cable ID. This only works if you're testing in sequence. If you're testing out of sequence, it's going to create a number of problems for you because you're going to be saving the wrong results to the wrong cable IDs. So autosave on if you're testing in order. This will save the result, pass or fail, to the next cable ID. So now, if you've already created your cable IDs and you've turned on autosave, you're ready to go in and start testing and get those tests done very quickly. Now, what if you have a set of cable IDs that are not sequential? So as an example, and let me share my whole screen here. We'll remove that. Let's add in this other screen. Share this whole screen. Let's say I have a set of cable IDs here. Now, these could be sequential, they could be non-sequential, but in this case, this is a set of cable IDs that I put together in Excel. Now, it could be that from our plans, we've been able to export all of the cable IDs for the project. I've got them here in Excel. So if I want to import these cable IDs into the tester, there are two different ways we can do it. We're going to start by looking at how we can import the cable IDs from LinkWare PC. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to LinkWare PC. Now, an important thing with LinkWare PC, there is a new version that has come out. And this new version is required in communicating with LinkWare Live because of some changes in TLS that's used to encrypt the traffic between them. So if you're running a version that is not 10.9 of LinkWare PC, please be sure to upgrade to ensure that you've got that compatibility. Now, what I'm going to show you is a little trick that we can do with LinkWare PC. Normally with LinkWare PC, we would connect the PC to the Versiv using a USB cable, and that works. But let's say you don't have the USB cable, or you want to connect to a unit that is not close to you. What we can do is I'm going to come up here to Options. I'm going to go to Device IP Address, and I'm going to put in the IP address of my Versiv. Now, how do I figure out what that is? Well, I can come into Tools, and I can go to Network. Right here, it shows the IP address is 10.0.11.118. So when I come in here, I put in that IP address. Now, LinkWare PC is communicating with the Versiv through our network connection. So if I come up to Utilities, and I go to DSX Cable Analyzer, and I go to Create Cable ID List. Here, I can just start typing in cable IDs to my heart's content. It is so much easier to type in cable IDs on my keyboard than it is to type in cable IDs on the Versiv. I can make sure I've got all the correct cable IDs in there. Even better yet, I can come into Open, and this shows me any IDS files. These are ID sets. And I don't have any on this USB drive right now, but what I do have is a CSV file. This is a comma separated values file. Now, CSV is a format that we can export from Excel. So what I did was I took that spreadsheet and I exported it as a CSV file. So if I come in here and I change and say show all the files, we see that there is that CSV file right there. So if I click on that CSV file and I open it, there's all my cable IDs. Now, we see right here the maximum number of IDs is 5,000. So for any one project on the Versiv, we can have up to 5,000 cable IDs. Now, we can have up to 100 projects on a Versiv, and we can have up to 50 cable ID sets per project. Now, the sum total of the cable IDs for those 50 ID sets cannot exceed 5,000. Also, we see right here, it says the maximum characters per ID are 60. So I have just imported that spreadsheet. I didn't have to retype anything. I'm able to bring that CSV file in here. We see there's all of our cable IDs right there. So now I need to move those over to my Versiv. So what do? I click on Send to DSX Cable Analyzer. And I'm going to give it a name. Webcast 10/28. That's today's date. Say OK. So now it's sending that cable ID list over there. It made it. OK. So let's come back here and let's add in that cable ID list. So I'm going to go into my project. I'm going to delete this cable ID set I have here, or I could add a new one. Let's do that. I'm going to click on New Cable ID Set. Now, here's where I put in my sequence. But you notice down at the bottom of the screen, we have Import. So I'm going to tap on Import. Here's some other cable ID lists that I've added in there. I'm going to tap on Webcast 10/28. Now we need to tell it what media we're testing, copper or fiber. For this particular test, we're doing copper. I'll say import. It says cable IDs have been successfully imported. We'll go back. We'll go back again. So now we see we have two different cable ID sets. One with 48 ports that we imported, and the other with 190 ports that we created that list. So now that I've imported that list, there it is. I did not have to type a thing. I was able to bring that list in from my spreadsheet that had a list of all the cable IDs, because somewhere out there, you've got cable IDs put together that you use to create labels for the patch panels, that you used for determining what went out at the wall jacks. Why retype that? Why make the mistake, and why spend the time retyping that? So now we are able to import those cable IDs in there. I'll hit done. We'll go back to the home screen. Now you notice it says next ID is 001A. What I can do is I can change my cable IDs right here. I could select a different set of cable IDs and say use selected. I've got autosave turned on. I hit done, and now it shows me what my next cable ID is. So that is how we could go in and create cable IDs using LinkWare PC. So that could be, those cable IDs can be transferred over using the USB cable or using an Ethernet cable. Next, we're going to take a look at LinkWare Live. Now let's get rid of that. All right. So I am going to move this over. Let me find where I put LinkWare Live. There it is. Now, LinkWare Live is the cloud-based results management system from Fluke Networks. What LinkWare Live does is it allows me to create projects in the cloud, push them out to the Versiv, run my tests, and upload my test results. So in this case, I've got a couple of projects out here. So we're going to create a new project. Now, here's the great thing. For instance, I'm a Mac user. So, well, for doing these webcasts and things like that. So in that case, I had to RDP, remote into a Windows PC to run LinkWare PC, because I can't run it on my Mac. But with LinkWare Live, I get to it via a web page. I can do this from my phone. I could do this from a tablet, anything that could run a web browser. So in this case, I go into LinkWare Live, and I say new project. So now a good example here is, again, I'm the project manager. I'm back at the office. I know what it is that we want to test. So I can build the project in advance. So I'll give it a project name. I'll say network protocol specialist. We'll add in a customer, Steve Martin. Location, Hollywood. Description, new banjo studio. Okay. And so we're going to come in here, and this project's going to run today and tomorrow. So I put in some information about this project. I'll say add new project. Now I need to add some test setups. So I can come in and select what media we're going to be testing. So we're going to do copper. In this case, we can say we're going to do Cat6A UUTP. I'm going to come over, and we can do a permanent link test. We're going to do Cat6A permanent link plus PoE because we're going to be adding some PoE devices on here. We can set the nominal velocity of propagation for our cable. We can set some other parameters. I'll give this a name. I'll say webcast 6A. I'll say next. Now, just like on the Versiv, this is where we would put in our cable IDs. So I could put in my sequential cable IDs here, or I can say import cable IDs. So in this case, I can import that. Now, with LinkWare Live, not only can I import the CSV file, but I can import Excel spreadsheets directly. So I can say choose file. I can grab my XLSX file out of Excel and hit open, and I can import that file. So I can say next. So now what it's going to do is it is going to import all those cable IDs. So we see that right here, it shows all of those cable IDs and it says they're untested. So we have created this project in LinkWare Live. That's all it took to go in and create that project. So now, if we come over here to my Versiv and I go to Tools and I click on Sign In, I put in my email address, I type in my password, and I hit Sign In. So now I'm signing in to LinkWare Live from my Versiv. My Versiv could be anywhere in the world. All we need to do is connect it to the internet. Now, if you have a Versiv 2, that could be through the Wi-Fi, and I could run a hotspot on my phone or have a hotspot. I could connect to a Wi-Fi network at the location I'm working. I could come over, and just like I have here, I could plug it into an Ethernet connection, but I just need to get it connected to the network. Now, I will put a link out there for the Wi-Fi adapter you can plug into your Versiv 1. It's about $10 on Amazon that'll allow you to connect to the network as well via Wi-Fi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to choose Mike's organization. So now we're going to come back. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to change our project. And we're going to come in here. We're going to say change project. And here it shows projects that are just on the tester. All right. Hopefully, let's see. Just looking for a project here. So in this case, I go to transfer, and I'm going to go to LinkWare Live. And it's going to retrieve the projects I have out there on LinkWare Live. And this shows me projects that are just on my tester. And if I scroll down, there's network protocol specialists. There's network protocol specialists over there. We're going to click on network protocol specialists and say synchronize. So now what it's doing, it is downloading that project configuration from LinkWare Live, and I hit OK. Now I come back. Now I can go to project, change project. I can go to network protocol specialists. So we see right here, are our cable IDs that we just imported. So what I did, I created the project over here. I imported my cable IDs from my spreadsheet. I then came over to my Versiv. I went to project and transfer, and I transferred that project from the cloud back down to my tester. Now, as I go in and run the tests, which I didn't set up to run tests. We'll have to show that in a future one. But when I go in and run the tests, I can then upload the results to LinkWare Live. And what will happen is when I go into cable ID and results, I can start seeing which cables have been tested. So again, if I'm the project manager and the group that is doing the testing is uploading the test results periodically, I can see how the project is progressing. I don't have to wait for the whole project to be done. I can see what the test results look like as we're going along. So the purpose of this webcast today was to take a look at the 3 different ways that we can go in. Let me remove this here. That we can go in and set up cable IDs on the Versiv. And those are on the Versiv itself, putting in a cable ID sequence. We can go into LinkWare PC and either type in cable IDs or import a CSV file. Probably the easiest way is to go in and create the whole project in LinkWare Live, bring the cable IDs in from a spreadsheet, and then download that project to the Versiv. Once my project's done, I could go into LinkWare Live and create the report right from there. So I want you to stop typing in cable IDs when you're setting up the Versiv and you're running your tests. Create your cable ID sequences, import your cable IDs you already have in a spreadsheet somewhere, decrease the amount of time it's taking you to go in and do your testing, increase your accuracy. So these are the types of subjects that we cover in our CCTT training. We do the training every single month. We've got one coming up here in November on the 16th and 17th. You can see a complete list of our classes by going out to cctttraining.com/lessons. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I plan on doing these on a regular basis, trying to get information out to you that will decrease the amount of time it takes you to do your testing, increase your accuracy. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in a future webcast.